Hey, Christina. You made it. I just can't hear you. You're unmuted. I don't know why I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Or
Testing 2, 3.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I don't know why it was doing that. That was weird.
That was totally me. That was totally me.
Okay.
I had I don't know, my microphone wasn't working. But anyway, I really need to go to the bathroom.
You have to go? Run now if you have to go.
No, I'll be right back.
Okay, I'll watch as people arrive.
Thank you.
No worries.
Hi, everyone. We'll get started at around 6:10. So boot up your computers. If you feel comfortable in turning on your camera, you can do so. If you don't feel comfortable, that's more than fine. You can utilize the chat to communicate with the rest of the meetup. And as always, this recording will be made available on my YouTube channel on Friday. And I will also be sending a link to the recording after it has been uploaded. So we're just going to get started at around 6:10, do some introductions, and answer some questions. Thank you everyone so much for being here.
Hello. I don't know if this is working.
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, hey, I can hear you too. That's great. You must be
Awesome.
Christina. My name's Peter.
Hey, Peter.
I do have a camera if I can figure out. I had some technical issues today, so.
It's okay. That is the byword of the season. Everybody, someone, somewhere, at some point in time is having some form of technical issue.
Yeah, it's pretty tough not to in this world today.
Mm-hmm.
You guys meet on a regular basis?
So typically we meet once a month, but for this year, 2021, it has been a bit difficult, but I'm hoping to end the year off strong into 2022. So we will be back to our regular scheduled broadcast of meeting every last Wednesday of the month, except for in December, which I think we're moving it up to the first Wednesday in the month, just so people can get some help ahead of the holidays. And then we'll restart back again on the last Wednesday of January and keep on going. So.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need any help at this time, but I manage about 80 WordPress websites and servers.
Oh.
And I just love this stuff. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Maybe we can help with some of the other people who are coming in and kind of help them out with what they need assistance with on their website. So we're just going to give a couple more minutes, but then we'll start actually answering questions and chit-chatting at around 6:10. And we'll go from there.
Yeah, awesome.
So how did you get 80 or so clients? Like, how does that work?
Well, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been at it since 91 or 95,
Oh, wow.
95. And I hooked in, oops, just knocked my camera over. Actually, it's a long story. I used to do this as a sort of a side gig.
Mm-hmm.
I was a marketing director for a company, and I ended up building e-commerce. I was the marketing director. They were a growing off-road company, and they wanted an online store. And initially, they said, well, they were going to go shopping or maybe build the platform. I said, wait a minute, I actually had gone through this process prior to at another company where I built an online store for them. So we built the platform there. But anyway, it just went from there, and I picked up some of my through some of my associations. I picked up other clients, and we ended up through my colleague building some of the websites on WordPress, and he's the one that introduced me to it, and that would have been probably 10 years ago, or the early days of WordPress anyway. And it just went from there, and then the company got bought out by a much larger corporation down in the US. So I was without a job at that point, and I didn't want to do what they wanted to put me into. So I decided, okay, I already do all this stuff, and I already have a few clients on the side. Why don't I just keep doing it? And that was 10 years ago. So,
Wow.
and a lot of my new clients, well, not a lot of them, some of the new clients, I ended up acquiring them because their WordPress had been hacked. And I recovered them, and I just retained them as clients, and it just keeps building. Time is what's done it, and you know, connections and stuff like that. So
That's pretty
my
cool.
story.
That is pretty cool. It's always good to hear how people got into WordPress. I think it's always fun and interesting to kind of see and hear how that happened, because I think everybody comes into WordPress for a different reason all the time. So
Yeah,
it's super cool. So we're coming up to 6:10. So I will just start off with an introduction. And then when more people come in, we'll just help them out as it comes along. So my name is Christina, and I am a WordPress web designer, and I run my own firm called NOYADESIGNS. And we are headquartered in Brampton, but also have locations now in Toronto. And we predominantly work with nonprofit organizations for their web design needs, but we also support them with videography, photography, and social media training services as well. I've been working with WordPress for about 10 years now. NOYADESIGNS is a second business of mine. My first, well, not second, now it's my main business, but it's not the first business I've run. The first business I ran was a telecommunications company. So that's where I learned all about coding and development. And then at NOYADESIGNS, it was more design and like merging together development and design. So this meetup is sponsored by the City of Brampton and the Brampton Entrepreneur Center, as well as NOYADESIGNS. And it's a free session for anybody who's using WordPress, and even people who need marketing help or want to bounce ideas off of other people who are either in marketing or building their websites or managing their websites. You can come here and kind of bounce ideas off of other people who are in a similar stage of business as you are. This group is not specifically for any one type of WordPress user. You can be an absolute newbie or someone who builds plugins and themes. Everybody is welcome here. So I'm going to open the floor. If you have any questions, please just either raise your hand or put it in the chat, and we will answer them on a first come, first served basis. And you can either, if you feel comfortable, you can unmute yourself and turn on your camera. If not, you can utilize the chat box, and we will provide you assistance from there. So the floor is open.
Yes, I can go next.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting myself. So I'm Jennifer. I am the manager of the Brampton Entrepreneur Center located in downtown Brampton. Good evening, everyone. We're so delighted that you could join us. We took a bit of a break for the last few months. COVID definitely shifted some of our priorities. So we're thrilled to bring this back and look forward to continuing to offer this in collaboration with Christina and NOYADESIGNS to ensure that we're building a community where people can get their WordPress challenges or issues fixed in a really supportive and collaborative environment. So welcome everybody, and looking forward to continuing to host these, hopefully maybe one day in person.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. With the news from, especially if you're in Ontario, with the news from the premiere, I think maybe summer next year might be safe enough for us to meet in person. I think summer should be safe, but hopefully I think we've been together for about a year now, and it's been 100% virtual, but that hasn't stopped kind of the community that we've been able to build thus far. Our Meetup group right now, I think it's standing at about 300 members, and that's completely without ever meeting in person. It's 100% virtual. So that's been really cool. So I see that we have Balwinder here, somebody by the name of Crane, and Eric. Do you need any assistance with your website? Is there anything you need help with? Do you want to share about your business? Okay. So Balwinder has put something into the chat. I'm going to read. It says, "Hello, I am new to WordPress and I've been struggling with it. I try to make changes to the front end, and often when making changes, the styles get deleted and there's no way to start fresh or go back. Am I doing something wrong, or is there a way to manage this?" So that's a really good question. Balwinder, do you want to share your screen and log into the back end so that we can take a look at this for you, or to share the URL of the website in question so we can take a deeper look and help you out with that? Oh, you deleted it. So did you delete the full WordPress installation, or? Okay. So based off of that, off the top of my head, without having been able to see exactly what's going on, what I would say is that it could potentially be that the CSS coding and the design was hard coded into whichever editor you were using. So if it was if it was Gutenberg or the classic editor, it's possible that maybe whoever had built the site originally, they might have utilized the hard coding. And basically what that means is that you can use CSS at the top of a website, and then that can kind of dynamically change, for example, all the paragraph text. With CSS, you can say all the paragraph text be red, and you don't need to explicitly write down or highlight all the text for it to be read. It'll just by code be read. But there is a way for you to say, maybe you'll highlight a bunch of text and then hard code into it be read. But if you go in and edit it, it's possible that you've wiped that off. So that's what it sounds like to me is happening, but it's really hard to kind of decipher what could potentially be happening simply because there's nothing for us to see. Do you want to share maybe more about the template you were using? Is this something that you custom coded? Did you hire a designer to build this? Is there any additional information you can provide for us to possibly assist? Astra. Okay. Yeah. So what I would recommend is probably do edits to content in the text view as opposed to the visual view. So let me see if I can log into one of my websites to give you an example. So give me 1 second here.
Hi, just to check, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, because I'm on my iPad and I don't have anything set up on this, so just want to check.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Maybe we can't hear him.
So just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna buffer up a website here to kind of give an example of what I'm referring to.
Okay, I've actually tried WordPress 2 or 3 times now. So what I usually do is I use the dashboard, and I don't do any coding, just user interface. I've used both Gutenberg and the classic editor. And while I'm working with it, yeah, in the appearance.
So
Yeah.
what I would recommend is possibly, if you're not doing any stylistic changes, number one, I'd recommend, this is a personal preference of mine, but you can use Gutenberg. But what you see here is the classic editor. So over here, you'll notice there's 2 tabs. There's visual and then text. So I'm not really familiar with Astra per se, but I do know that it comes with a lot of different child themes or layouts. And they could utilize some form of hard coding. So what I would recommend is if you like the way the layout is set up and you just want to input your own text, just to make sure that you're not changing any of the styling, what I'd recommend is number one, use the classic editor, and then number 2, switch from visual to text, and then manually go through the code and edit any of the content that you want changed. And if you need help installing the classic editor plugin, you go to plugins, and then it's one of the very first, and you go to add new, and it's one of the very first plugins available. This one right here, classic editor. If you install it, it'll give you exactly what I had showed you before. And I'd recommend using the text editor as opposed to the visual, because that will probably keep whatever CSS classes or CSS styles that might have been hard coded into the template. It will keep it intact, but will allow you to make it easier for you to see the content that you could potentially change it without changing the styling. So that's what I would recommend. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add or any suggestions that could potentially help Elementor at this time?
Yeah, you were saying, Christina, it's difficult to say without actually seeing what he's working with.
Yeah.
Because there's different frameworks, different templates, and
yeah. But I believe Astra is one of the, I think Astra I think is most commonly used with Elementor, I think, from what I know.
I have a couple. I have a couple with the Astra, and it does use the Elementor. So
yeah, so I think also using the text editor through Elementor. I think Elementor kind of has, when you use it on the left-hand panel, it can kind of open up, again, a smaller version of the classic editor and just switch from visual to text. And then you can just read between the various tabs what your content is and switch that out with what you need help with. What you want to use. So that's what I'd recommend. Try it out. If you can, this meetup ends at 8 o'clock. So if you actually want to go in and reinstall WordPress, and then maybe towards the end, once you've gone through everybody's, we can maybe help you and see exactly what's going on. If you're doing like a one-click installation, you could probably do that within an hour or so, and then we can help you. If you want to like log back in, we can definitely help you when we can fully see like what's in front of us. Do you have any other questions, Balwinder, or anything we can help you with?
Yeah, with the visual and text tabs, the text, is it the HTML formatting or is it the CSS?
Yeah, so it's the HTML. However, if there are any CSS classes, that would also show up in the HTML. I would think in Elementor, I think you can either, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not really a big Elementor person, I'm more of a Divi person.
I don't like it.
So I think in Elementor, if you go, let me share my screen again. But if you go into appearance and then customize, I believe that Elementor would have something very similar to this, which is called an additional CSS or custom CSS tab, which might have the CSS code within it. So this is my website, and I have like all of my custom CSS classes and styles here. I believe Astra would have something similar to this. So you could potentially look through there in case you want to change some styling globally across your site, and see what is there. But the text tab within the classic editor, I believe, will help you be able to see where you can change your content specifically without messing with any of the CSS classes. So that's what I would recommend.
Okay, mostly like my ultimate aim was to actually make a multi-site, like a network install that WordPress has. So I was trying to practice that, and for that I needed to have some sort of like, I know what the theory is, but I need some sort of practice with the front end of it on how to like generate that dashboard kind. So I wanted to experiment and play with the layout a lot. So yeah, the visual does not have much option there. So I think Gutenberg is the newer one. I've used Elementor too a bit. Same thing happens. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but when I would be editing, it would be like I would come to a point when I would make an edit and then I would refresh it or something, and everything will be gone. It will be only HTML left. Like the CSS will be gone and the JavaScript, whatever is gone, and there's only HTML left. And I could see that because the site loads only HTML, nothing else.
Again, it's kind of hard to if it's something where you've tried with Elementor and you've tried with Astra and you're still having the problem, I definitely think at this time, are you able to work with a straight vanilla WordPress installation? And do you still have that issue?
Yeah, I've actually just started with that vanilla installation only. I haven't like touched multi-site yet. So I was just struggling with that, and I've like given up. So it's like the second or third time that I've given up. I was like, okay, maybe if I could get help. And I tried to come to the sessions before for the WordPress meetup, but I couldn't. I think I missed a few. So yes, I'll try and see again with the visual and text thing, but mostly anything to move around the layout, like maybe let's say if there is to change the positioning of a certain element, basically the structure of the website. Any tips on that would be great.
So I would definitely say for a free option, I think Elementor is pretty good. I think Gutenberg is okay, to be honest, but I think for more customizations, more modules, I definitely think installing a page builder is necessary. So I would definitely say go back to Elementor. You may need to change your theme. I think a lot of people have had success with Hello Elementor and using Elementor. So Hello Elementor is also a free theme that's in the WordPress repository. And it's like, I think the way some people describe it is it's similar to a bare bones skeleton theme. So there's nothing on it at all. And you're building everything sort of from scratch with Elementor's default capabilities. So this is Astra, which is what you're using now. But I would actually recommend using this, Hello Elementor. So I would recommend using Hello Elementor with the Elementor page builder. And like it said here, it's a plain vanilla and lightweight theme for Elementor page builder. So I would recommend using Hello Elementor with Elementor and starting from the ground up. I know Astra's there, and I believe Astra works best with Elementor, but I think, yeah, so it's saying here that it works well with Elementor, Beaver Builder, Visual Composer, Site Origin, Divi, but I would say maybe go for Hello Elementor just because it gives you more control, and there are very little, there's not much styling. It's literally like a bare bones skeleton, and you have to come in and add your own headers and text and CSS and your own coding and your own modules, so on and so forth. I think that might be an option for you as well. And I believe that Hello Elementor and Elementor are also multi-site friendly as well. But I definitely think, or rather, I have a question. Is this project your first like WordPress project? Is this like your first WordPress site that you're building?
Yeah, this is the first time. And just to add on, I bought WP Bakery a while ago. I tried it and I had similar issues. So even that is sitting by the side. So WP Bakery, I believe, is a page builder.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there some place or some reference where I could get help with all these things? Like what are different kind of plugins available, like page builders? What other stuff is available so that I know what tools I can work with?
Well, so I've got a question.
Sure.
First off, why are you going to use multi-site? Because it is a very complicated way to do anything.
That was going to be my next question, especially for as a starter website and this being your first WordPress project. What are you trying to build that you need multi-site?
Not as a starter project, but that's my ultimate goal.
Okay.
So yeah, so my starter project is just to build like a basic blog, and then from blog to progress to like a regular website. So I just want to eventually progress to a multi-site install, probably like a software as a service kind of install, but that is far away from me. That's my ultimate goal. But right now, just to get started, I'm struggling there.
What kind of technical background do you have, or design background?
Not much. I have programmed in Java, C#,
Okay.
a bit of
so
.NET.
Then what I'm going to suggest, since you're just getting started in WordPress, you should really just use the native block editor. Don't add the complexity, because every plugin that you add adds potential complications. It could be compatibility, it could be security, it could be performance. When you use something like Elementor or Bakery or any of the other page builders, they don't have everything. So you tend to add this add-on and that add-on. And with Elementor, it's not uncommon to have 5 or 6 or 15 add-ons to be able to get all the blocks that you want. Same thing, pretty much any page builder is going to give you that option. And some of these page builders, they're great. But when you try to move away from them, you have to redesign everything, because some of them, Bakery in particular, uses something called shortcodes, which all your data will be gibberish when you try to move on. So for your first project, I'd really try to just use one of the built-in themes and just learn the block editor instead of overcomplicating things.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard about shortcodes and the issue with shortcodes. So yeah, I'm aware of that kind of issue. So that was one of the things which was also very degrading for me to start eventually. So I think these are very valuable tips. I'll work on that.
Awesome. Awesome. Does anyone else have anything to add for Blawinder before we move on to the next person? All right. Well, thank you so much, Eric, for providing additional insight and clarity. Who else would like to go next with their WordPress issue or need some help? The floor is open.
The airways are silent.
Yes, they are. So if you don't feel comfortable unmuting yourself or coming on camera, you can utilize the chat to type in your question or your concern, and we'll be more than happy to help you and assist you with it.
I guess nobody's having problems, Christina.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess so. I guess so.
Okay, I'll throw out a question.
Okay.
I'm using Gravity Forms and the Gravity Forms Recaptcha add-on, and it's loading the Roboto Google font from Google Fonts, and I want to load it locally.
So Recaptcha is loading the.
Yeah, Recaptcha is loading in an iframe.
Mhm.
And because of that, it's loading a Google font that my theme is already loading. But it's loading it a second time, and my theme loads it locally, but Recaptcha is loading it from Google, which is adding a quarter of a second load time to my site, and I don't want to sacrifice a quarter second.
How are you integrating Recaptcha with your website?
The Gravity Forms Recaptcha add-on.
Huh. Interesting.
But their only configurations are I pick version 2 or 3. I enter my keys, and I can throw their little Google's text that says I'm loading Recaptcha, or I can display the Recaptcha. But either way, it still loads the font.
So why don't you load Recaptcha site-wide as opposed to just specifically in the form? With version 3.
Even if I load it site-wide, it's still gonna load it as an iframe. So I still have the same issue.
Where does it load as an iframe? Sorry, can you share your screen? Because I've loaded Recaptcha several times, even as far back as 2 days ago.
But version 2, or is it version 2 or 3?
3.
I'm using 3 mostly too.
Yeah, like just yesterday, I installed it on a client site. There was no physical Recaptcha there. So we're using, for his site, we did it on Divi. So Divi has like some little janky, simple CAPTCHA, but we have Recaptcha in the entire site. Is there a reason you're sticking to version 2?
I'm not, I'm using version 3.
So because Recaptcha doesn't, okay, let me see. Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, I'm looking for, I'm trying to pull up a website.
Yeah, I didn't know it used an iframe.
Yeah, that's what I was saying too.
Now I'm going to be digging into the sites.
Hold on. Let's see. I'm having technical difficulties because I just updated a plugin and my Recaptcha is not even loading.
Okay, so let's, just for the purposes of everybody else on the call, I need to update this client's Recaptcha. So let's go through that. Where's your screen? So this client we just built their site yesterday. And if we go to their contact page. So right now we have an error. So I'm guessing this text right here is what you're referring to?
Well, no, and that
Okay.
that actually looks like well, I don't know what that one looks like. That one looks more like version 2. It could be version 3 though, but that error message is just because it's having a hard time getting the API.
Yeah, so we're gonna end this right now while we're waiting for you to bring up.
Yeah, and I've got mine ready whenever.
Okay, so I'll take this down. All right, so let me see.
Okay, so
great.
here's my Recaptcha
Awesome.
down at the bottom.
Okay.
That looks like 3.
It
It
is.
looks like 3.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
But version 3 loads in. Let me scoot this over a little bit. Version 3 loads in an iframe. Always has, always will. Now, because I'm looking at the wrong thing, I don't need this. I need the source. But so version 3 loads in an iframe, and because of that, you can't style it, and it loads the fonts through here. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to load the fonts locally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to load the fonts locally because I'm already loading Roboto as part of the theme.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to load it twice.
I'm going to be honest with you. This is the first time I'm hearing of this, so totally out of my scope. Peter, do you want to take a crack at it?
Well, I don't really have any answers for it because I hadn't really had a problem with it. I would, I think it needs a little bit of sleuthing. I would probably do some digging through the code. But if it's loading it through the iframe, unless Google gives you some means to prevent it from doing that, it's pretty tough to do.
Right. Google says that that if I was to preload a font on my site, that it would just use the one that's already local, but it doesn't.
Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah. I've got the same issue with a slider that's calling a Google font that's already loaded on my site from my theme, and it's deciding, well, we don't care, we're going to load it anyway. So
yeah, unless you can. No, actually, no matter what you do, it's still an iframe. You can't change anything within the context of the iframe. You can put wrappers around the iframe. You can, and so on and so forth, but you can't change anything within it. I don't have an answer for you at this point.
So looking online, I do see, this is really old though. So I'm looking on Google's developers. And at one point in time, they did have some way to style.
yeah,
So-
no, that's all for version 2.
Yeah.
Because version 2 actually had themes for the iframe.
Mhm.
They had like two or three themes for the iframes for the Recaptcha.
Mhm.
Have you tried?
Sorry, continue.
That's right. Have you, Eric, have you tried using some of the version 2 methods on version 3 to see if they apply?
Yeah, and I mean I can style it if I do it through the developer tools, but it doesn't give that doesn't give me any options about the fonts.
Yeah.
And I'm not real worried about the styling. On the one site that I didn't like the color, I went with the brute force approach and said, okay, well, I'll just put the text that says it's protected with Recaptcha and I'll hide it. But it still loads the fonts.
Yeah.
And you know, when you want to get every last millisecond out of your site, I mean, this is running on a WooCommerce site with a 1.5 second load time, but with Recaptcha running, it actually goes up to 1 3/4, and I want that 1/4 of a second back.
Yeah, especially with WooCommerce.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want all the time.
I've got it running on every page of the site because of WooCommerce. It's on the login and the checkout and all of that.
Yeah, I'd have to do a little bit of investigating, but I'm thinking that if you're not able to change it through the normal, similar to the version 2, it probably isn't able to be done at this time, or unless there's a workaround for it and somehow you can block it from loading it.
Yeah, and I forget the plugin that I use, but there's one that allows me to actually target CSS and actually still style an iframe using targeted CSS.
Yep.
And that I mean, that helped with the CSS styling. But
There's a problem with that though. You're now adding more load time with the plugin.
Well, and because I'm not worried about the styling, I'm just trying to fix the font. The styling itself is fine. It's all about that font load.
Yeah, so you're better off not using that plugin. Good question, Eric.
Yeah, the site that I was going to style it, I just came with, like I said, I got a bigger hammer, and I hid the Recaptcha, and put the text that says I'm running it, so that I didn't have to change the colors of the Recaptcha.
Right.
Sometimes a big hammer works. Unfortunately, I haven't found a hammer big enough to fix the font issue.
Okay, well, firstly, my eyes were open because I had no idea up until this point in time that Recaptcha loaded in an iframe. So I learned something today.
I didn't either.
I didn't know that. But yeah, I'm not really sure what could help, but I'm not sure if you're part of the WordPress Slack. If you are, Eric, you could ask in there.
Yeah. No, I'm a member of so many Slack groups around the world.
Yeah. I would say ask around in there.
Yeah, I'm on Make WordPress. I've actually reached out to former Google developers.
Okay.
But nobody's come up with an answer yet. But that doesn't mean that I have. That means that I haven't asked the right person.
Fair. Very, very fair. Very, very fair. Well, thank you for opening our eyes to that, and thank you for teaching me something today. I appreciate you for always showing up to our Brampton meetups. So, Belinda, I know you have another question, but I just want to open the floor to either Mark or Crane. Do you have any questions or comments for your particular businesses or WordPress sites that we could help you out with tonight? You can utilize the chat. You can unmute yourself. If you feel comfortable, you can turn on your camera. Totally up to you.
Nothing from my side.
Hi. How can we help you today?
Oh, nothing. It's like I'm just trying to listen.
Okay. All right, no problem.
I'm pretty much good with my site right now.
Okay. Happy to hear that. Happy to hear that. Okay, Crane. Is there a website you need assistance with? Do you have any insights you would like to share? Floor is open.
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My knowledge of WordPress is very limited.
Okay.
My issue, my business website is jefedetail.com, which is JEFE detail.com. Now, my WooCommerce, I was trying to set that up. So I was having issues with that in itself. And I'm trying to, I guess the way it's set up right now, it's barely working. And I'm just trying to set up something where I could have like a landing page and then set up an offer for my service. So I don't know, like that's basically the way I can explain it. But just setting up the WooCommerce itself has been a problem.
Okay, cool. Do you want to share your screen, or what we can do? Sorry, can you give me your URL again, and then I'll share my screen. So JEFE, is it resale or retail.com?
That's retail. I'm sorry. No, sorry, detail.
Okay.
It's JEFE detail.com. What am I doing here? Let me see if I could share my screen. So yeah, this is the back end, I guess.
Okay. So first things first, I would definitely recommend updating your PHP.
See, that's part of the problem too. Every time I update something, the site like shuts down. So I heard I think I heard Peter was saying sometimes when you have too many different plugins, they could start to conflict. So that's what I was trying to figure out. Maybe I have too many things going on in the back end. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm kind of afraid to even touch anything because it's just working right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that totally makes sense. Totally. Yeah, so right now I'm seeing you have 10 plugins that need to be updated. Can we just take a look at which plugins you have? So I'll definitely say point number 1, update PHP, but let's see what plugins you have, and then other members can kind of weigh in and see. So I would definitely have Akismet activated and updated to help with the spam. Classic editor sounds good. Click to chat sounds good. Facebook for WooCommerce. I think, okay.
Okay, stop right there. Hello, Dolly. You need to delete that off your site.
Yeah.
That plugin should never be installed anywhere ever, and I wish WordPress would stop doing it.
Is that right?
Why do you feel so strongly about it?
Because it's a massive security vulnerability.
Is it?
It takes half a second to use that plugin to hijack a website.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. Learn something new every day.
It's okay. I delete it anyway because it's just clutter.
I'm surprised. Does it even still come installed as WordPress? Like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
On
Comes
a
with it.
lot of the one-click installs, it does.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I pull the current version down from WordPress, and when you install it, it includes it.
Okay, so quick question. Are you using Clavio for your email marketing or Mailchimp?
Okay, I had this guy on I guess on Fiverr. He set up the Clavio, but it wasn't really doing anything, so I kind of shut it down on the site. So it was pretty much like it would have a pop-up in the beginning, you know, to put your email if you want any other offers, but I didn't find it was effective, so I just kind of shut it down. So I'm not sure which one to use, but they're both there. Yeah.
So have you sent out any email marketing recently?
No, not at all.
Okay, so you could delete both of those until you decide to integrate email marketing into your business strategy. There's no need for you to have those 2 plugins there. So I think we've shaved off 3 plugins thus far.
And I guess the big 1,000-pound gorilla in the way of your site. What are you selling? Physical products or virtual?
Virtual service. Well, it's a service.
Okay. So you don't have any shipping. Are you doing any automated tax collection?
Yeah, that would be. No, actually, no. Sorry, no.
Okay, then you can probably get rid of Jetpack.
I'm sorry, get rid of which?
Jetpack. Yeah. Jetpack is super.
Jetpack is like a Swiss Army knife plugin. It's got 30, 40 features built into it. And most of us use 1 or 2 at most.
I usually delete it.
Yeah. Now you've got WooCommerce services and WooCommerce, and you've got Stripe. Which one are you using for your credit card transactions?
Again, just started setting it up. Haven't done anything as yet. But
Okay.
I haven't figured out which one is better.
Okay, so get rid of get rid of the PayPal plugin, update to the new version that's still supported, because this version is no longer supported.
So get rid of which one?
This PayPal plugin with the big red thing that says as of September 1st, it's not supported. click the big blue button that says upgrade to PayPal payments.
Okay.
Yeah. You're gonna have to switch PayPal plugins, get rid of WooCommerce services and Jetpack because you've got the actual Stripe plugin.
Yeah.
And I personally suggest using Stripe directly instead of using it through WooCommerce, because then you control your own destiny.
Okay, so let's take a couple steps back here and let's talk about some business stuff first. And then what I always tell people in my signature WooCommerce talk is that you have to look at your online business as a business first. So let's talk about some business stuff first. So one of the things you had mentioned was that you're selling a service. So talk to us a bit more about the service you're offering, because it could potentially be that you don't need WooCommerce at all, similar to what Eric was saying. But I think we definitely love to present you with a better option if you aren't going to use WooCommerce. So could you tell us a bit more about like how your business functions, what services you offer, etc.?
Yeah, the services drop off shoe cleaning. We clean like high-end sneakers.
Okay.
So currently right now, I had an offer where it was just a special offer for like 3 pairs of sneakers for $30 only for certain customers, right? So the idea was to have a link on a particular part of the site for that offer, so people could they would be able to purchase it. They would only be able to purchase the like the actual offer itself, like pay for the $30 without tax, and then come in once they get the service, drop off, pay for the taxes on site after they pick up. So
okay. So next question, I think I know the answer to this question, but I just need to confirm. What WordPress theme are you using?
I couldn't even remember what the theme is, to be honest.
Okay, so just give me 1 second. I'm going to find out.
It looks like it's running Divi.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So you're in luck, because like I run my business on Divi, so definitely here to help. So do people need to book a specific time to drop off their shoes? Like, have you gotten to that part of your business process yet?
So far, just because of the whole COVID thing, yes, people have called in to, just arrange that they were dropping off, but without COVID, because it's a small location, so I didn't want a lot of people coming at the same time. But yeah, regularly you can just come in and drop off.
Okay. All right. So what I would actually recommend, honestly, is to potentially use something to actually, not utilize WooCommerce at all, similar to what Eric was saying, but to potentially integrate Calendly into your website. So you would create a landing page, you create a separate page, right, for the offer. And then you would actually have a Calendly account. I'm going to put it inside.
So I've got to stomp all over Calendly because it's an iframe and you can't style it.
That's fine. At this point in time, I think because he's starting out from a business perspective, we just want to have a viable MVP.
I don't know. So, I always believe in doing it right the first time, but that's okay.
Yeah. So we're going to go with this way. So what I would recommend is going with Calendly so that people can actually select time slots that kind of fit with your schedule. And then embedding the Calendly, you can either embed it directly onto the page, or if you don't want to have an iframe loading onto your website, people can actually click out from the landing page to book a slot. So that's what I'd recommend. And that will, number one, get rid of a lot of the plugins that are here and kind of take the whole burden off of the site and make it easier for people to book for you and help you with your business, because it's easier for you to get started, collect money, etc.
So get rid of WooCommerce right off the bat.
Yeah.
And you're saying with Calendly, they would be able to book times, and then how would there be the opportunity?
So I think I think Calendly has I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that for one of the paid versions, you can accept payments through it as well. So you could potentially do that as well. And you could do as much styling and creativity as you want to do with Divi on your landing page, but you're going to definitely have a cleaner site if you kind of get rid of WooCommerce. And this is something you could probably do in a day or two, and get out there and start making some money. And then once you do that, then you can definitely come back in and maybe make something more native on WordPress to be able to have something a bit more integrated. So that's what I'd recommend. It's always good to kind of see what your business process is and then get the tools to support that business process and have a strong, viable MVP, go to market with that, make some money, and then update your tools as you go along. So let me know if you have any questions, and I'm sure everybody else in the group can also add to the conversation.
Okay.
Any questions thus far?
No. I'll have to look into a lot of that. It makes sense.
All right, so what I'm gonna do, and this goes for anybody in the group, if you do have any further questions after the meetup, my email is in the chat. So just feel free to like message your question to me, but just make sure the subject line is WordPress meetup. That way I do not charge you. So if you do not put that in there, I will charge you. But if you put WordPress meetup, we get a free consultation. So I hope that was beneficial. But yeah, so I would say do most of the scheduling through Calendly, just because number one, it's easier. And number two, you can focus more so on building out the landing page. So you could get rid of, I think, maybe about 6 or so of the plugins that are here, because most of them are related to WooCommerce. So like Facebook for WooCommerce, you don't need that. Google Ads for WooCommerce. Are you running Facebook or Google Ads right now?
No.
No, so you don't need those. You definitely don't need Jetpack. You don't need Clavio. If you keep on scrolling down. Also, do you have like an up-to-date Divi key?
Not sure.
Okay, if you don't, again, email me. I will give you one of mine. I have a membership, and I will, because you're part of this group, I'll give you an API key so you can get updates for your Divi website. So make sure you email me and I'll give you a key.
What's your email again?
It's in the chat. So it's info@ChristinaGwira.com. So info@myfullname.com.
Okay.
Because that could also be a reason why your site is crashing, because you don't have an updated theme in addition to not having updated plugins.
Plus the PHP needs to be updated as well.
That as well. That's a critical piece, because I think even when we were trying to update the PayPal, we weren't able to do that because the PHP wasn't up to date. Give me 1 second. I'm just charging my laptop. 1 moment.
Version of PHP you need to go to is 7.4. Do not go to version 8. There's a lot of plugins that don't support version 8 yet.
Yeah.
7.3 goes end of life in like 10 days, 2 weeks.
Yeah, basically what you're saying is use the stable version. Yeah, 7.4 we use mostly on most of our sites.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, so I'm gonna try and put some notes in the chat, just because we have notes added to the recording. So Okay, so Crane, in the chat, I've listed, I've tried and summarized most of what everybody had kind of said in the chat. So on Friday, this will be made available online for you to download along with this recording. But do you have any other questions or anything we could answer for you at this time?
No, that should be all for now. That's all I can think of.
Cool. Well, glad we could help. Please make sure to check the chat just so you can copy and paste those notes and my email address. And yeah, thank you for joining us and being a part. And hopefully you can share some of what you've learned with other members of tonight's session.
Appreciate your help. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, so who would like to go next? I definitely saw some people, new faces coming in. So we have Dave, we have Tom, some other people. Hold on, let me see. Mark's been here for a while. So the floor is open. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to ask. You can use the chat, or you can unmute yourself, or you can come on camera, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Hi, I just had a small question.
Sure.
Since I'm way too early in my WordPress journey, I was just wondering, why would it be viable to, after payment, like for this case that was just shown, like after the payment is done, that the customer is directed to a Google form or any kind of form, and then the customer creates an appointment and that just goes to a sheet? Would that be a good business case?
Like I said, work.
It just sounds complicated.
It's easier because it takes the load off your WordPress, because from your checkout, you would just have to put in a link to a form, and in the form, the customer could put in the information when they want to come, and that could go into the sheet.
Yeah, but you've got to think about your end user experience. If your end user's already completed a checkout, and then you've sent them somewhere else to listen to screaming kids in the background, and they have to fill out another page, and then you have to wait for a confirmation. It just seems like a poor end user experience, and you're going to lose customers. To me, I mean, Calendly, I've used Calendly, and there are business cases for it. And when you set up that appointment on Calendly, you can set it so that it creates a Zoom event, it creates a phone call, it creates whatever kind of appointment you need, automatically puts it on your calendar. That's a better end user experience. And the name of your website doesn't make a difference what your business case is. If your end user doesn't like it, they're not going to deal with it. You've got to give them the best experience you can.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Eric. So Balwinder, Calendly kind of does that for you. So you don't really need to, it allows you to, actually, let's just go through, let's see what, so this is kind of what, do I have Calendly? I think I have a Calendly.
And I have found something similar to Calendly that I like better because I don't have to pay for it. OnceHub.
That is so, that is such a WordPress user thing. It's like, I don't want to pay for anything.
Well, no, I mean, I run WooCommerce bookings for my paid appointments, but for my free appointments, I like to use OnceHub because I can have it interface with Zoom, Google Meet, take the appointments, and it's quick, it's easy, it works.
Sorry, what do you use? What do you use, Eric?
It's called OnceHub.
Sorry, Eric, can you put the name of that in the chat, please, just so that when other people come
I'm gonna find a good link for it and put an actual URL.
Thank you. That'll be great. So let's actually go through. I think I have it somewhere. Let me see. Oh, my website. Okay, so I'm gonna give an example of kind of why I would recommend Calendly. So this is my Calendly link. It's like my personal one. So again, this is like for free calls, like legit to just network with people. So you can have different appointments here. So Crane, if you have maybe there's certain shoes that take a certain length of time. So let's say Ultra Boost take like 20 minutes, free runners take a certain time, superstars take a certain amount of time, as an example. I know you're doing like high-end shoes, so don't mind me and my brookie shoes. But let's say you had like a different setup for each shoe. When someone like clicks on it, you can kind of describe the service. You tell them how long it will take. In my case, I have it connected to Zoom. So when someone picks a time, so they pick a date, so let's say Friday, they can pick any time they want, confirm it, and then you can customize this form depending on what you need to know from them. So for example, for me, again, I'm having tea dates, coffee dates with people. Like, I just want to meet you, learn more about you as a person. I ask people, what's your favorite flavor of tea or coffee? But you could probably ask them, like, how long have you had your shoe? Or are there any laces? Is there custom artwork, et cetera, et cetera. And so let's actually go through this. And then similar to what Eric was saying, so now this has been scheduled. So 2 emails get sent out. So this is, okay, so let's just wait. Okay, so let's log in here. So me as the admin, I get this email. So Christina, this is her email. She has booked a time at 2:30 on Friday. This is the Zoom details. So the integration with Zoom is free, and it just integrates with like whatever Zoom room you have. And then the answer to the question I put in, what's your favorite flavor of tea, Lady Grey, that gets sent over to me. And then as the attendee, I also get a copy of that in my inbox. It's like connected to Google Calendar, so I can say yes, no, maybe. So there really is no need for having like a separate form because Calendly handles the entire process.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's like, again, like super streamlined. You saw the entire thing. I got a confirmation email as the attendee. The client got an email. They can have it like connected, depending on what email client they're using. They can connect it into like their Google Calendar or their Apple Calendar and get notifications, etc. So that's kind of what I would recommend for Ukraine, to have that, just to like, again, simple process. And then even if it was paid, you could collect the payment right there. I think Calendly uses Stripe for their payment processing. I could be totally wrong. But yeah, to answer your question, Bewinder, there's no need to have like a Google form or anything like that, because the entire Calendly process can handle all of that and make it much more easy and streamlined for your users and also for you as the admin. You don't have to continuously have the Google form updated or continuously check into Google Docs. It's right there in your email. And I think also in Calendly as well, you'll also see all of the appointments that you have. And it also blocks out slots, so people can't book the same service or a different service at the same period of time. The service that I specifically use for my business is Dubsado, but that's like a whole different kettle of fish. But I also like their scheduler, and for our calls at NOYADESIGNS, the calls are paid. So we're actually able to collect the payments through Stripe, and we have a longer form for people to actually fill out to book their call. So it all depends on, again, if you recall, the very first thing I asked Crane was, how does your business function? What is the business process? And you kind of, again, find the right tools to make your business process and your business operations flow. Okay, thank you so much, Eric, for putting the link there. So everyone, if you're looking for an alternative to Calendly, Eric has shared OnceHub.com. And he's also answered Tom's question. So the question that Tom asked was, what's the difference between using WooCommerce or Stripe? And Eric said, WooCommerce is an e-commerce solution. Stripe is a payment gateway for your e-commerce, which is correct. So WooCommerce, a rival of WooCommerce would be Shopify. A rival of Stripe would be PayPal. So if you look at it in that way, you can kind of see how they're totally different. PayPal could never do what Shopify does. Stripe could never do what WooCommerce does. WooCommerce needs Stripe and/or PayPal. Shopify needs Stripe and/or PayPal to process payments that come through. Yay, glad we could help you out with that. So are there any other who? So Mark is learning, Crane got answered. Dave, Tom, do you have any questions, comments that we could help you with tonight?
Sorry, just got back in. I did hear you from the other room. I was just dropping in because I wanted to hear, this is the first WordPress meetup I've ever done.
Oh, nice.
So I just wanted to, as far as I know, my site's, other than the usual pickups and things that we go through along the way, it was just my opportunity to come in and just hear what other people are going through. And if it's not something I'm dealing with yet, maybe it's something I will be in the future, and just park some things in my head.
Awesome. Thank you for choosing the Brampton WordPress meetup to be your first WordPress meetup. We appreciate you being here, and yeah, we hope you can be a part of our community. We meet up on the last Wednesday of every month, except for in December, where we meet on the first Wednesday of the month. So we hope to see you next month as well, and at our Christmas party. So
lovely. As long as WordPress keeps reminding me, that's awesome. So greetings from Owen Sound.
Oh, nice, bro. How is it up there? Like, what's the weather like right now?
It's just beautiful.
I believe you.
No snow yet?
No, it's 13 degrees, golfing on Friday.
Oh, so lucky. Yeah, today in Toronto, it's 17, and the sun, I think, was just setting at the start of today's meetup. So it was definitely very different from where yesterday was so horrible. Like, this week was gray and raining and disgusting. But yeah. So Dave, I think Jen is asking where you're golfing.
Oh, in Owen Sound, I will be golfing at Legacy Ridge Golf Club.
Very nice. Enjoy your round.
Thank you so much.
All right. So are there any other questions? I know that Balwinder had other questions regarding staging and production. So I definitely think that we can get a great discussion going on there. And I think Tom has also asked a question. So is it possible to use Facebook Calendar and integrate to WordPress and collect payments upon booking? Ooh, that's a good question. So I think my first question, Tom, is why are you using the Facebook Calendar? I didn't even know Facebook had a calendar, if I'm being honest.
I didn't know either.
Followers. I think it might be better. So I think it might be better actually. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. So here's what I'd recommend instead. So this is my business page. And so when you go to edit, sign up, and then edit button, you have all of these actions you can take. So right now we have people sign up for our newsletter. But I think if we have a book now, let's see what happens. So you can do appointments on Facebook. Oh, interesting. So I guess my question here, Tom, is what can you tell us a bit more about your registration process? Like, what are you trying to, are they just booking calls? Are they booking viewings? Where does WordPress come in here?
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to figure out if it's possible to integrate that into the WordPress website. And just because social media followerships and just maximizing what Facebook may offer in terms of bookings and collect payment upon bookings. I mean, you're exactly right on the appointment preferences, which sends you automatic emails to you upon booking. But I just wondering how that can be connected, I guess.
I don't know. I'm doing this right now, so let's see. From the process we just took, and I definitely would like to open the floor to other members of the meetup today to kind of put their own expertise in. I don't think it makes much sense. I think what I would recommend is put the booking information where the audience is. So if most of your people are on Facebook and they're interacting with you well on Facebook, then do what I just did. Make the action button on the Facebook page, enabling them and allowing them to book through Facebook. But if most of your traffic is coming from your website, I would recommend getting either Calendly or your CRM or OnceHub to actually handle the booking, and then have whatever booking source come into the same Google Calendar. So my Calendly is connected to the same calendar that I take my bookings from my business. So the reason for that is because I believe they cancel each other out. So if someone books, let's say, for example, 1 p.m. for us to do tea together, and someone comes on my website and they also want to book for 1 p.m., Google will basically say that slot has already been taken from the other calendar. So that's what I recommend instead. I would recommend, if you have a lot of people on Facebook, change the action button on your Facebook page to use Facebook appointments, hook that up to your calendar SaaS product of choice. And if it's your website, have your calendar SaaS product of choice on your website and have both of them funnel into the same Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, iCal, etc., and set up default notifications so that you're notified or your other members of your team are notified whenever an appointment comes in, whether it's from Facebook or your website, or if someone goes directly to a booking page. That's what I would recommend. But the floor is open if anyone wants to kind of provide their insights, what they're doing in their business. Let's give Tom some knowledge. Did I cover everything?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that's what I'd recommend, Tom. I would say update your Facebook page, use Facebook appointments in there, and then whatever CRM or calendar you're using on your website, have them both integrated into the same Google Calendar, just so that people don't double book from whichever source they're coming through on.
Right. I'm just curious as to if you are using the Facebook and maximizing its usage because of, you know, the followers. Now, when they book on an appointment, then it connects, like you said, into your calendar or whatever type of calendar you have. And then that's synced, you know, when the time is not available. But how does the payment occur upon booking using, is it MemberPress or is it WooCommerce? Is it Stripe?
I think it would depend on whatever solution you're using for your booking. So from what we just saw, I think Facebook doesn't let you charge for appointments yet, from what I'm seeing. And let's go back in and see. Hold on.
I have a question.
Sure.
Tom, are your users, when they purchase something or book, I guess what I'm saying is, when they're booking something, is there a flat fee that's the same all the time?
Yeah, let's say just to automate appointment booking with payment, a flat fee.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it could be embedded into the calendar itself somehow. Again, I'm not familiar with the Facebook calendar, so I really at a bit of a loss.
We're in this Facebook. I think Facebook
Yeah.
hasn't brought that in yet. So this is the Facebook. I'm in appointment settings. I'm not seeing anywhere for me to like attach. So if I go to service and like edit.
I mean, if you want to have some fun, you can automate it with Zapier. So that when a Facebook appointment comes through, Zapier creates your Zoom event or sends out an email and with a PayPal invoice or something.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, but I'm not really familiar with it.
Let me put that resource in the chat. So for Tom, I'll look up that for Facebook. I'm going to be honest with you, Tom. It doesn't seem like at this time, it doesn't seem that Facebook appointments allows you to charge for someone booking an appointment. So what I would recommend is probably having, if that's the case, I think it might be better to use an external calendar on your website. So
Like Calendly?
Yeah, like you could use Calendly, or can you tell us a bit more about your business, and then we could probably see what approach would work for you. Are you currently using a CRM in your business right now? Does it have a scheduler that you can charge for? Like,
Yeah, sorry. I'm just figuring out as is. I'm a startup. I'm just trying to figure out best options to build with. But it's very. I mean, the idea is very simple. Just for example, booking for this live conversation with a flat fee, and automating this whole payment process and the bookings. And so I think the beauty is in its simplicity. But like if you were to book and get paid while you're conducting these interviews, how would you go about it? I mean, we're using your website and your social media platforms. And then if you got—
that's a good question. So I'll give you exactly what I do. That's not correct English, but you know what I mean. So this is what I do. So let's go to Instagram. On my Instagram, actually it's a poor example, I removed the link. So what I used to do on Instagram was this link over here would actually go to here. And we did a meetup showing you how to build one of these. So it goes onto like a quote unquote link tree that I have on my website. So it's mobile optimized, and on here is like all my affiliate links, my Patreon, my shop, this meetup, etc. So what I typically do is on most of my social media, it all comes back to this page, and they're presented. Okay, wow. This link would have been right here. So you see ChristinaGwira.com/links. This is how I would get people to pay me for calls or book calls with me. At my business, what we use something called Dubsado. What is the link again? And here, this is a bit of a longer process just because. So right here, we charge people $50 for 30 minutes. They fill out this form, they book it. It has all of these questions in here. When they book it, it then takes them to select a date and time, and they get served with an invoice, which they can pay through Stripe. So those are the multiple ways in which people can book calls with me or a member of my team. And some of them are complimentary, some of them are paid. So, but with each thing, we use different methods. So at NOYADESIGNS, because we need to have this long, in-depth form, we use our CRM called Dubsado to do that. So what happens is when they fill out that form, it then goes into our CRM with their name, contact information, email, everything to do with their website, and $50. So that's in our CRM, because what we're then going to do is we're going to send them a proposal, we're going to send them a contract, we're going to send them an invoice, and they're in our system. And we actually do have a Zap, which basically sends them from our CRM into our Mailchimp for us to email market them at a later date and time. But notice I'm one person, and I have multiple ways for people to pay me and book calls depending on my business. So for my design firm, I use Dubsado. For myself as a consultant, I use Calendly. I pay $35 USD per month for Dubsado. I'm using the free version of Calendly. In both ways, at the end of the day, people end up paying me in some way, shape, or form. So it really depends on what your business process is and what you needed to do. If you need to build up a database of people that you want to retarget, or you want to like collect information on and build profiles, I would say use a CRM. If you just want to be paid for calls, I think there's even like a new SaaS product. I think it's called Buy Time, I think. And people could just pay you like for 15 minutes of your time, 30 minutes of your time. And so there's so many different platforms. It all depends on what your business case is. So Mark, I'm going to put the name of the CRM that I use in the chat, and my affiliate code. So use code NOYADESIGNS to save. So that's what so it all depends, Tom, on what your business needs to do and what you need to collect from people to book time with you. Depending on that would depend on what method you use for your business. So any further questions? Floor is open. You can use the chat. You can unmute yourself. If you need anything further clarified, the floor is open. This has been a really interesting session. Lots of questions, lots of back and forth. I'm learning a lot. I learned a lot today as well. So the teacher can also be the student, as we can see. So floor is open. If anyone has any questions, any comments, anything they'd like to add.
Everybody's on mute, right?
Yeah, everybody's muted. So we still have 30 minutes left. So we still have more than enough time to discuss anything. If not, okay, so Balwinder asked a question earlier on today about, let me scroll up. Making a proper production environment and then exporting the site to a live environment. So I'm gonna tell you what my process is, and then I'm gonna open the floor up to anybody else who wants to talk about their environment. So for me, what I do is I typically build client sites on a subdomain. So client name dot NOYADESIGNS.com. I build the entire site there. And then I typically would then use the plugin duplicator to move the site from my hosting to their hosting. I would then, before doing that, I'll create I'll update my .htaccess file with all the forwards that need to take place. Then I will put them in place. I'll then restore the site, update the .htaccess, resubmit to Google, double check Webmaster Search Console, and then work management agreement with the client. So that's my staging, live production, launch plan. Peter, let's hear from you. Peter manages a crap ton of websites. So what's your process?
Well, yeah, we do it a little differently because we host them. So if we're building a new site for a client, basically we'll spin up a server for them, and it isn't accessible to the public. We build it in the background, unless of course the client wants to have a look at it as we go. And most will again use maybe a subdomain, so it in the event that their actual website, or if they have a current website, so it doesn't conflict with it. So we might spin it up that way, and we build the website. When the client's happy with it, then we'll go in and change the subdomain to its actual domain address, and then we'll switch the IPs on their DNS, and then it's live. It's that simple. Of course, going through the webmaster console, the search console, and so on and so forth. We do that with all of the websites. But yeah, it's pretty simple. Occasionally, we'll get a client that wants to move a site. We'll work on it on their platform. We might have to move it. At that point, we just simply zip all of the files and then do a MySQL dump, move them all over, expand it, and load the MySQL, and it's live. So that's how we do it.
Does anyone else want to share their staging and live?
Yeah, for me, it depends upon where I'm building the site, where the site's going to end up.
Yeah.
If it's going to end up on WP Engine, I build it in my staging environment on my WP Engine agency account, and then I when it's ready to go live, I transfer it to the client's live site. If it's going to be on shared hosting of your choice, I charge my client more. Build it on my environment and then transfer it to theirs when they've decided that they're willing to pay their $6 a year for hosting.
Yeah, we don't do those.
I just charge them extra. GoDaddy's 20% over the cost of any other shared hosting because it's so bad. I also charge extra to deal with Microsoft because their customer service is so bad. I charge 40% for customer service with Microsoft. But it depends upon where it's going to end up will be. But I usually build it on my environment, and I usually build it behind Cloudflare so that any device that my IPs have been pre-approved on Cloudflare, I can jump from my desktop to my laptop to my mobile, and I don't have to deal with passwords and things like that to see what it actually looks like.
So there you go, 3 different.
Okay, just
Yeah,
a
so-
question. Does the Cloudflare block public access when you want it to? Like, can it block public access to the domain?
So Cloudflare is most commonly known as a CDN or content delivery network, which is used to speed up delivery of your website assets to your end users. But they do this by being your DNS servers, your name servers for your website. So what I do is I create a firewall rule that just says there is no access to the site, the staging site, except via my IP address. And then when it goes live, I just turn off that firewall rule and it can go live right where it sits. I use that when I'm building a site right on the domain name that it's going to live on.
Okay, so that's pretty simple, like block all except one.
Yeah.
Did you find that helpful, Belinda?
Yes, very much. Usually, what I was thinking of doing is like having a web server which is local install, and then if I am planning to move from local install to a live environment, it's always tricky because you have to do the entire install
all over again. And building in a live environment is always so I haven't done that, but always is at the back of mind there's the question like, what if someone stumbles onto something, the IP or whatever identifier, and then the person can access a production environment. So so far I've only done local installs. So let's see, like I have a few pointers, and I'm going to install WordPress again locally, and then see like how it goes.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, don't lose hope. Everybody's first website, WordPress site and project took them a long time. I think my first WordPress site took me 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, but once I got it done, I can now spin up a site in a couple of hours. So I'm really happy that we were able to provide you with some insight from some people who've been in the game for like a really long period of time. And every day we're learning, right? Every day we're learning and growing, and being able to have community like this where you can learn and grow and ask questions. So
it'll all be different tomorrow.
Yes.
I think this is a good environment to have like with other people, because that facilitates and speeds up learning. Because I suffer from OCD and ADD, so I have to like put an extra effort to stay on point, stay on goal.
Totally get it. So we're coming up to 7:40. Are there any other questions or comments before we wrap up tonight's session? I think we'll finish a little bit earlier, maybe 7:45 today, unless any new faces come in. But does anybody have any other questions, comments, thoughts? Definitely something I wanted to ask the group, where if I wanted to experiment next year, especially with having themed / topic-based meetups. So for example, I think in my Divi meetup, we do this a lot. So we have like a lot of walkthroughs. So one of the walkthroughs we had last year was building a one-page website. We built a self-hosted link tree, similar to what I showed. Does anybody have any ideas or something they may want us to walk through or learn about together in meetups? Like, what do you guys think about different topics we can cover, just so that we don't just have site clinics? We've done site clinics for I think the entire duration of this meetup, except for once when I think we had a guest speaker from overseas who walked us through the front end and back end of Oxygen Builder. And I definitely want to bring him back next year. But anything you guys think? What do y'all think about topic-based and more teaching-based meetups?
So
for 2022?
I go to WordPress groups around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got one group I go to that they do a site clinic twice a month.
Mm.
But then they also do 4 presentations a month.
Okay.
So what they've got is they've got the site clinics that one person runs. They've got beginner events, they've got intermediate events, they've got advanced events.
Mm-hmm.
I've got another group I go to that they do a help desk twice a month, and that's all they do. I've got another group that they do I think 8 events a month. 4 of them are like 15-minute live YouTube presentations, and then they do 2 actual presentations. 1 presentation, 1 help desk. I run a group here in town, and I do 2 live presentations a month. I don't do help desks anymore.
Sorry, whereabouts are you based, Eric?
I'm just a little south of you guys. I'm in Dallas, Texas.
A little south. Here's me thinking you're gonna say like Kitchener or something.
I'll come visit you on my e-bike. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a lot warmer down there.
I always make the joke that I'm a little south because I go to an event in England a lot. I make the joke I'm a little west of them.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you're in Texas. Well, that's great. Like, I really want to come to Texas really, really, really badly. Like, I'm thinking of coming there sometime this year. I definitely would love to come to your meetup if I am in town. But yeah, I want to do more teaching for sure. Right now, this meetup, I think, compared to some of the other WordPress meetups, number one, we're really new. Number two, we're kind of small. We're over 350 people strong. But I do want to provide value. So Balwinder says he'd like walkthrough sessions. Any topic is good, with a preference for beginner stuff. I think that is very, very doable. I don't know if like our main sponsor can handle 2 meetups a month. But I'll definitely want to, I'll talk. I don't know, Jen, do you want to chime in? Like, what do you think?
So I guess it depends. Like, I'm sure we can figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe we could probably do like one session is a walkthrough with a specific topic and a specific deliverable, and then one is like a site clinic. I would love to do that. I just want to provide more value, and I think specifically for newer people to WordPress, being able to have, I kind of feel personally really supported when I have like people like Peter and Eric in the room, because they have like a couple years experience on their backs as well. And so they're able to chime in. So it's not just me gagging on. There's other people there as well. But I definitely would like to bring more teaching, especially to people who are new to WordPress. So I think we've come to the natural, you know what, Balwinder, that is such a great question. And of all the recordings, that is the only recording we were never able to get, because we had Dan doing the session, and I think he lost the recording. So unfortunately, Balwinder, we do not have the recording for the Oxygen meetup, but we are going to do it again next year. I'm not sure when specifically, but next year for sure, we are bringing back Nanad to do the Oxygen Builder meetup. I think we'll do like a walkthrough maybe, because even me myself, I do want to learn more about Oxygen Builder. And so I think I might see if he can volunteer his time to do a couple of sessions for us, and see what that's like. But he's in like I think he's 12 hours ahead. So 6 p.m. our time, Eastern Standard Time, is like 6 a.m., 5 a.m. his time. But I will definitely ask, and I have been definitely meaning to get him to come back to our meetup, because okay, so Jen is saying we could go earlier. That could potentially work for the and that was one of our bigger meetups. We had a lot of people there, because I think everybody kind of wants to know a bit more about Oxygen. I think it's like one of the more elusive page/theme builders out there. But yeah, all right. Well, this has been great. So everyone, this session was recorded. So I will process this recording, and it will be up on YouTube end of day, at the latest end of day Friday, along with the chat. So the reason we save the chat is so if anyone wants to come back and get like their to-do list or have any notes, they can do that. Hold on. I'm not sure how to save the chat. I'll figure it out later. But thank you everyone for coming out. Really appreciate your time. If there aren't any final questions or comments, words of advice, prayer requests, we're going to end the recording, and I will see you